royal insider of the utmost pedigree, having spent over 25 years following the family on their tours, interviewing them and their closest confidants. We're delighted that he's joined us today to talk about his latest book, which is This Queen of Our Times. So it's a very warm welcome, Robert Hardman. And your first time on Loose Women.
It is. It's very exciting.
So
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome any time. Amazing book. What a beautiful photograph of the Queen that one is, isn't it?
Taken by Dorothy Wilding, a female photographer, yeah.
Does she like having her photograph taken and portraits done and things?
As she's been photographed, and her image has appeared on more things than anybody else in history. Yeah. When you think of all the coin stamps, portraits, banknotes, I think she's used to it by now. But, she doesn't enjoy it particularly, but it comes with the job.
Obviously, we've got the Jubilee coming up. So, so much, so many things are being released and photographs being released, but you have had access to royal archive that nobody else has managed to get, and her wartime diaries, is that correct?
Yeah, I was very lucky when writing this to be allowed into the royal archives at Windsor. In Windsor Castle, the big tower right at the top, that's got the archives. It's a sort of holy of holies. And in there are all sorts of things we writers would love to get our hands on, but everything to do with this reign is still under lock and key. But the Queen agreed to let me look at the diaries, the war diaries of her father, George VI. And I think when you read those, when you understand him, what he was going through, I think it explains a lot about her, actually, and how she has responded to events through her reign. She was absolutely devoted to her father. And,
well, the king who was not meant to be king.
The king who was not meant to be king. She was never meant to be queen. His father was never meant to be king. I mean, it's extraordinary when you think about it. And yet he proved to be a great king, great wartime king. And to read these diaries, to actually read what they were really going through. I mean, obviously, in public, we have this sort of idea of sort of stiff upper lip and, we'll just get through this. But actually, he was dive-bombed in his own home. He was nearly killed twice. Wow. He was terribly worried about his daughters. We've always been told that there was never any question of them leaving the country during the war. But actually, I found, when you read the diaries, right in the worst moment when they're expecting an invasion at any minute, when you've got German paratroopers trying to kidnap the Dutch royal family and other royal families in Europe, the king went to see Churchill and said, I think it's time we talked about evacuating Elizabeth and Margaret. And Churchill said, well, hang on, not yet. So they did think about it, but in the end, of course, the princesses stayed for the duration. They spent most of the war at Windsor Castle. And he absolutely, he and Churchill sort of saved the free world.
Well, she was, when her father died and tragically died, and she was very close to him, very young when she became queen.
25-year-old mother of two.
70 years on the throne, the longest reigning monarch that we've seen. How much will the celebrations, this coming bank holiday in June, the pageant and everything, how much will that mean to her?
I think it means a lot to her. It's a sort of two-way thing. I mean, we obviously are it's all about sort of thanking her, recognising her, but she will be very keen to sort of turn that back and the other way, and it's sort of thank you for working with me, looking after me, for being with me, if you like,
and
all those 70 years.
Because we know that they've had her appearance at garden parties cancelled. There's concern about her health. Obviously, we don't all know what's going on. So how will those 4 days be for her, being visible?
Well, I think she will definitely do her best to be as many to get to as many things as possible. I mean, that's the way things are. I mean, this is a monarch who's well into her 10th decade. I think we can sort of, we can allow her to make a decision on the day. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, tomorrow, for example, is the state opening of Parliament, something that she absolutely views as sort of central to who she is, what she does as a constitutional monarch. But she'll see how she is in the morning. I mean, that's an arduous day out. You've got to...
Robert, she's very much always been of the never complain, never explain generation, and there's a lot of complaining and explaining going on around her now in her wider family. Let's start with Andrew. So the decision for him to suddenly escort her at the moment, how did that come about?
That I think, took us all slightly by surprise. I mean, we knew that Andrew was going to be at Westminster Abbey for the service. It was a memorial service for his father. Entirely right, he should be there. He was due to arrive with his daughters. And then at the last minute, it was explained, actually, no, he's coming in with the Queen because he's escorted her up from Windsor. And I think, that certainly took everyone by surprise. It did have the effect of drawing attention away from the main business of the day, which was to commemorate the life of Prince Philip.
Do you think it was instigated by him?
I think Prince Andrew was very keen to do that. I mean, my understanding is that he had started working on changing the plans a few days beforehand, and was very keen to do that. I think the Queen, in the circumstances, thought, well, you know, he wants to do this. He's the only one. He's a son. He's the only one who doesn't, you know, hasn't got a family with him, hasn't got a wife with him. Therefore, why not? But,
so moving over to Harry now, the other, the one who's doing a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining. When he says that he spoke to his grandmother and said, "Have you got the right people around you?" Do you think that's part of what he was referring to? Because it was very shortly around that time, wasn't it?
I don't think it was a sort of direct reference to that. I think it was more a sort of, you know, I'm still very much involved in this institution. I still care about my grandmother, and they are very close. I mean, they really are. You know, despite, you know, them moving to California, and despite the, you know, the interviews and whatever that have certainly caused problems for the monarchy, that relationship between grandmother and grandson is as close as ever. But
she has made the decision that Harry and Meghan, also Prince Andrew, won't be joining her on the balcony. That would have been her decision alone, would it?
I mean, nothing happens in the palace without her say-so. I mean, absolutely that. But that wasn't so much a case of, I don't want X, Y and Z on the balcony. It's more a case of, who am I going to have on the balcony? I want to sort of trim this down. It's a jubilee. It's not like a regular birthday parade when you have all the extended cousins, but sort of members of the family here that no one normally sees. You know, this is very much going to be just for those who are part, if you like, of the sort of central working unit.
And going forward, it's showing the progress of the family,
this is the future, folks.
Yeah.
As far as the working institution goes, it's not. No one's being marginalised from the family. I mean, this is a jubilee about her. It's not about the family. It's very much, it's recognition of her and those who are day to day. If you look in the court circular, in the papers, there it is every day. These are the members of the family who are out there, not making big headlines. You know, they'll be going off to open a charity shop in Budley Salterton or a hospital in Lancashire. Princess Anne, yeah.
Sorry, speaking of things that make big headlines, the Crown makes big headlines always because we're wondering, does the Queen actually watch it? Can you answer that?
No, she doesn't.
What about Loose Women?
I'm sure she watches Loose Women, and I'm sure she'll be watching Loose Women to see her son-in-law, grandson-in-law, Mike, on here later in the week. So no, she likes watching all sorts of. You know, she's very much in tune with what people like. I mean, I think all-time favourites, probably things like Dad's Armies, actually, are very much a favourite. But I'm sure she watches this. But I know she doesn't watch it.
We want to know if she's watching today.
Well, find out later. But the Crown not, and nor do most of the family. Although Princess Anne was asked about this, we did a documentary on her for her 70th birthday, and she was asked, you know, do you watch The Crown? She said, I don't watch it, but she had read an interview with Erin Doherty, who plays her in The Crown, and she was amazed and faintly appalled that it took Erin Doherty 2 hours to do her hair. She said, it takes me 10 minutes and I do it myself. It's much quicker. So, you know, classic Princess Anne.
Well, if you are watching Your Majesty, that is an absolutely beautiful photograph of you. Queen of Our Times, The Life of Elizabeth II by Robert Hardman. It's an amazing book. Beautiful photographs in here, everything, so much.
First photograph of her behind the wheel of a car, actually. Never seen before, age 5.
Age 5.
Yeah, she's borrowed a friend's pedal car and he's an awesome...
I wish we had longer to talk to you because there's so much in there and so many stories. But Robert, thank you very much. Lovely to see you.
Thank you. Thank you all.